Okay, folks. This is what Musk does when he's high on ketamine. He's got telltale, intoxicated posts and tweets. These are what they look like. I literally challenged Putin to a one-on-one physical combat over Ukraine, and my Starlink system is the backbone of the Ukrainian army. Their entire front line would collapse if I turned it off. What I am sickened by is years of, and I'll read the rest later, but this is how he acts. He wants to do mano a mano with, like, remember the Mark Zuckerberg cage match? That was a ketamine fueled side path he stumbled down for a little while. We never saw that, right? It never came to fruition because he doesn't mean these things. He's just, and I'm going to read for you some stuff about ketamine that will perhaps bring into this sharp clarity of why he acts this way, and may give you a deeper understanding into the physiology and the psychology behind this. Now, ketamine is called a dissociative drug because during a high, which lasts about an hour, people may feel detached from their body, their emotions, or the passage of time. Frequent, heavy recreational use, say several times a week, has been linked to cognitive effects that last beyond the high, including impaired memory, delusional thinking, superstitious beliefs, and a sense of specialness and importance. You can see why people might wonder about the ketamine use from a man who is trying to usher in multi-planetary human life, who has barged, I'm sorry, I still haven't found my glasses, y'all. I'm remedying that soon. Who has barged into global politics and is attempting to re-engineer the US government. With Musk's new political powers, his cognitive and physiological health is of concern not only to his shareholders of his companies and stocks, but to all Americans. His late night posts on X, mass emails to federal employees, which were so stupid, and non sequiturs uttered on television, I am meme, have prompted a lot of questions about his drug use. Sure has. Research has not yet established the side effects of long-term ketamine use or ketamine therapy, but older studies of recreational users offer some insight on heavy and long extended dosing. Celia Morgan, now a psychopharmacology professor at the University of Exeter in England, led a 2010 study that followed 120 recreational ketamine users for a year. That must have been fun. Even infrequent users, those who used on an average roughly 3 times a month, scored higher on a delusional thought scale than ex-ketamine users, people who took other drugs and people who didn't use drugs at all. Those who averaged 20 uses a month scored even higher. People believed that they were the sole recipients of secret messages, or that society and the people around them were especially attuned to them. The psychological profile of a frequent ketamine user, Morgan and her team concluded, was someone who had profound impairments in short and long-term memory and was distinctly dissociated in their day-to-day existence. Morgan's study was not designed to determine whether people who are more likely to be delusional are also more likely to recreationally use ketamine, but Morgan told me that stopping the drug in most cases will dramatically reduce those side effects. I mean, I'm sure he knows that. I'm sure he just doesn't care. I mean, to be honest, I'm sure he just doesn't care, right? So, continuing, such theoretical impairments would be concerning in any context, but especially when contemplating a person who has achieved enough power to be unironically described as co-president of the United States. To be sure, ketamine may have nothing to do with his actions. He may simply be acting in accordance with his far-right political ideology. Musk also famously brags that he rarely sleeps. Never a good strategy for measured speech or actions. Swaths of the tech world have long been drawn to Stoic philosophy, which encourages a detachment from that which is out of your control. Stoicism often offers excellent coping strategies in the face of adversity, useful in an industry where most startups fail. But taken to extremes, it can also be a pathway to disengagement from the world and people around you. Ketamine, similarly, can afford its users space between themselves and overwhelming despair, which might help explain how it can treat depression. Mathai, the Miami psychiatrist, said, but there are consequences for leaning into that escape for too long. Yeah. It makes sense then, that the detachment from everyone else and the feeling of specialness and that people are especially attuned to you. That does explain things. I believe. And then, this is what he did the other day. He tweeted this out and said he continued this. So it's what I'm sickened by is years of slaughter in a stalemate that Ukraine will inevitably lose. Anyone who really cares, really thinks, and really understands wants the meat grinder to stop. Peace now. That's the ketamine. Really thinks, really understands, that's that ketamine. So after he tweeted that out, Radoslaw Sikorski of Poland says Starlinks for Ukraine are paid for by the Polish digitization ministry at the cost of $50 million per year. The ethics of threatening the victim of an aggression apart, if SpaceX proves to be an unreliable provider, we will be forced to look for other suppliers. Marco Rubio had to jump on the bandwagon because he believed what Elon Musk said. After Elon Musk replies to Radoslaw by saying, be quiet, small man. You pay a tiny fraction of the cost, and there is no substitute for Starlink. But there is. And then, Marco Rubio has to pile on because he believed what took Elon's side and said, no one has made any threats about cutting Ukraine off from Starlink. And say thank you, because without Starlink, Ukraine would have lost this war long ago, and Russia would now be at the border with Poland. Okay, Marco. But there is a competitor, and it is a European Starlink rival's shares have skyrocketed 390% in a week. And here's why. Yes, guess who that is? Well, if I can open it, I can find out. This is called Eutelsat. It's a European satellite company, and they are a competitor with Musk. And after that, he backed down, of course, because, the drugs wore off, right?